Welcome to Dad Talk Today. The podcast for dads facing some of the toughest moments of their lives. We are here to walk with men through divorce, keep them connected to their kids, help them understand their rights, and work for change in family law courts. Moms, you are always welcome too. We are all about advocating for shared parenting and doing what is best for our kids. Here is your host, Eric Carroll.
Everybody, welcome back to Dad Talk Today. I'm glad you're here. It's the week after Thanksgiving. We made it through one of the holidays. We got more of the holidays coming up. But before we do that, and before we get into this show, I just want to say, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribing and ding that bell. Because if you don't ding that bell, you're not going to get the notifications from when we go live. I'd say the same thing to you on Facebook. If you're watching it, I've got a lot of friends that have been reaching out here recently, and we're growing around 20,000 followers every 3 weeks. And they're saying, we're not getting notifications for what you're doing. That's all I can tell you, man. Make sure you're following the page. And if you are watching this on Facebook, go over to YouTube, give us a subscribe. I'd like to get some more programming going over there. And that's something I'd like to do in the new year. Also, we are a listener-supported podcast, guys. We're not a nonprofit organization. We don't have any big donors. We don't have a major network behind us. So we exist because of viewers like you, and we depend upon your support. If you can help, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, so we can keep this programming going and keep these conversations flowing. I love coming to you each and every single week and doing what we're doing here. And today is going to be no exception, because today's subject is one that's been quite controversial. It's been going on for a long time, and I am so glad to be talking to you about it. So let's go ahead and get on into this. Boom, boom. Anyway, sorry, I had my Red Bull. I'm a little wired. Today's subject is going to be MGTOW on this hand versus feminism, and why these two opposite sides have completely different views in what they're about. Yeah. So for anybody that is not familiar with MGTOW, what is a MGTOW? That was the first thing I thought when I saw it. It is known as men going their own way. They're an online community of men who said, you know what, we're fed up. We're going our own way. We're not going to have love. We're not going to have relationships. We're going to do our own thing because that protects us. And when I very first started reading up on MGTOW, and I had some of the MGTOW guys coming on and commenting on the page, I started reading up on it, and there's all these negative articles on who MGTOW is. But then I start reading on the philosophies. I started watching these different medias, and there's such a bad stigma for this online community for men who feel like they've been wronged by the family law courts. They feel like they've been wronged in relationships. And even so, a lot of times on these shows, they'll say these guys make such valid points. They make such valid points, but you need to stay away from this because it's toxic. And like, if they're making valid points and they're telling you things, why are you pointing out that it's toxic or not dipping in deeper to find out why they feel this way? What brought them to this? Some people will tell you they're just bitter, divorced, rejected, angry dads that have everything taken away from them, or men that just hate women. That's not what I've encountered. Now, I will say there is an extreme to this. I've seen some of the extreme ones that are like the female woman haters club. But for the most part, it's people that have really good points, and I'd like to bring that up. Now, on the other hand, you got feminism. Feminism, I believe the first wave of feminism, it was a rightful movement. They fought to have rights to vote. They fought for rights to work. They fought for rights to, have everyday necessities. And then at one point, something kind of just went astray. It's not exactly the same movement as it was today. And I did a lot of studying up on this, and some of the things I found I wasn't too hot on. One of the veterans that we've had on this podcast numerous times, also a member of the Coalition to Create the White House Council, Dr. Warren Farrell, he started off with NOW, the National Organization of Women. He was fighting for feminist rights. Somewhere along the way, he said, something's going on here. It seems like it's going in the opposite direction. And if we don't do something now, there's going to be some bad consequences from that. And I believe that's where we're at now. I believe we're starting to see a lot of that. But so what are some of the things? First off, I got some notes here. So you're going to see me looking down every once in a while because there's so many different things to cover. But I found one picture. Okay. And this will kind of explain MGTOW in a little bit in a nutshell. Not all the way, but here was a picture I found. It's called Gender Benefits of Being in a Relationship. For the men, it's got a question mark. Well, what is the benefit? And then there's a both section where both sides are benefiting. Sex, both sides enjoy sex. It's a way to connect with your partner. Emotional support. We both like having somebody to talk to and get emotional support. Maybe you have a hard day at work or there's something that's going on. We should be able to talk to each other. Communication. It's great. Status. Being married, being in a relationship, being invited to parties, the status that comes along with it. So what are the benefits, according to MGTOW, that women receive? Free dinners. Now, I'm going to pull this down, and we're going to make point by point. Free dinners. I think it's been a long time expectation of men that if you take a woman out on a date, or if you go out, even after you're married, man, you're supposed to pay for that meal. You took her out. It's your duty. But where has that got lost in relationship, and why is that just immediately considered the way it's supposed to go? I was watching one of the earlier episodes of Dr. Farrell on Oprah talking about this, and he was saying every time you go out to eat, one, the man should pay for it, and then the next time you go out to eat, the woman should pay for it, and it should go vice versa, and it shows mutual respect in the relationship. And after being taught that the man was supposed to pay for the dinner my whole life, at first I was looking at it, I was like, what is this? What is this? And you saw a lot of the people getting mad in the audience. And then the more I started dipping down into it, it's like, he's right. That starts an inequality right there. That starts expectations of one sex over another sex. Feminism is supposed to be all about equality, right? So when we're talking about equality, why is it that one is expected to provide the supper, which is a basic necessity? We do it every day, okay? And one's not. One's just supposed to receive. There's a lot to look into. It's definitely a great point. Let's get on to the next one. His money. The benefit. She gets his money. Many times in the marriage, you get married, guy's working, he's supposed to give her the money. She's going to pay the bills. She's going to make sure it's all done, right? Sometimes that don't happen. Sometimes they go shopping, and Jesus, Lord have mercy. We got this thing now known as Amazon. How many of you got wives or somebody in the packages that are coming in? One thing I can say about my wife, yeah, she's an Amazon shopper, but she's buying it. I can't, and a lot of times it benefits me. So one thing that somebody said not long ago, I said something on Facebook about my wife for her birthday, and she found me when I had nothing to offer, was in a wheelchair, and taking care of me and providing more for me than I was able to do her, because I didn't have much. And they called her a Nawalt. We got all these different names, kind of like MGTOW. And I was like, what in the world is a Nawalt? And it was, not all women are like that. And that made my heart happy, because I do believe there's many Nawalts out there. Okay. Just got to find them. But it really made me happy to see that. But there's definitely some truth to that statement. Doors held for you. Doors held for you. Again, what happened to real men? What happened to real gentlemen? When you get out of the car, he needs to be opening the door for her. I mean, I was taught that my whole life too. And I still do it for my wife, right? But when you think about it, we go back to the equality. We go back to who's putting in what. It's one sex being told they get this, and one sex saying they have to provide it. Okay, let's get back. We're talking about the conversation of equality here, guys. Let's get back into this. Male servants. Attentions on you. Okay, so there was a post I made not too long ago, and it brought a little bit of attention and got a little bit of controversy. And I actually got more pushback from the guys than I got for the ladies. And it was, I think Paul Elam had posted something, and I shared it, and it was, happy wife, happy life is for a weakness, for men, and anybody that goes by that theology. is wrong. I completely paraphrase that, Paul. I'm not trying to tear that apart. I agreed with it because that statement, while it's used so much, and a lot of times it's just as a joke, hey man, you got to keep her happy, happy wife, happy life, the husband needs to be happy too. And many times he's not going to tell you that he's not happy. He's not going to tell you what's going wrong because he hasn't been conditioned. He hasn't been raised to tell you these things. And when communication starts being brought down, many times it's going to be looked at as his shortcoming, right? And we'll get into that a little bit later on, but happy wife, happy life. No, happy house, happy spouse. That's what we should be striving for. Marriage is at a 55% divorce rate, and we're going to sit here and say that one side needs to be catered to? No, both sides need to be appreciated. They need communication, and they need work. You need to pursue each other. Okay. So, I agree with that. Let's go on down a little bit. You're never wrong. Okay. I guess that one could probably go inside of either column, but I get it. I really do. We're going to go on to the next one. Okay. Treated like a princess. That's true. I mean, that goes into what we was just talking about a second ago. How the husband is supposed to provide this happiness. He's supposed to open the door. He's supposed to provide dinner. He has to constantly be worried about whether she's happy or what emotional state that she's in. And it creates this one-sided this. Okay. That's the best way to put it. All right. Protection. All right. Protection. Protection is a big one. Men are supposed to provide protection. We talk about inequality in the workplace when it pertains to feminism, but let's go back. Let's go back thousands of years. If there was a war and we felt like there was a reason for that war and it was to protect us, it was to protect our rights, and somebody needed to fight for it, who went? He did. He did. We look at the men for protection, and a lot of times they hold things inside. If something's bothering them, they just brush it off because they know they've got a task at hand that they've got to solve or that they've got to face. They've got to protect. But then we call it toxic masculinity when they don't talk. We'll get into that a little bit later on. Free gifts. Free gifts. You got to send your wife flowers of work. Disclaimer, I will send my wife flowers of work a couple of times a year. But I will tell you this. I receive just as much, if not more, from her. It's been 50-50. But there's lots of free gifts, and you got to pamper and you got to spoil. And I think that's where society has definitely got it wrong. And when we talk about the topic of equality, and to any of the ladies, any of the feminists, because boy, they come to this page sometimes and they try to give me a hard time. I don't care. If that was going to bother me, I wouldn't be doing this in the first place. But that is one of the things I believe it spoils a person and makes them feel like every bit of their existence is to be served. They talk about, well, I guess that's where the male servants comes in, right, guys? The more I dip into this, the more I'm understanding the philosophy, the backbone of what is the MGTOW movement. And I hear you. But again, let's go back to feminism. They talk about equality, okay? And that was what they was after. And I think that's what we're after, right, guys? We're not looking for superiority, equality. Not superiority, but equality. One of the first things that women will bring up when it comes to feminism, or anybody for that fact, there's a lot of men in the feminist movement, is the inequality in the workplace. Men make more than women on the average, but there's so many details, especially if you dip down into MGTOW when they bring in the statistics, that is not being brought into the conversation. It's easy to look at the pay wage gap, but it's not as easy once you find out some of the details behind it. One of those would be, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, men are 10 times more likely to die on the job. 10 times. You say you want equality. Do we want to make that 5 and 5? Men are 10 times more likely to die on the job. Men account for 93% of workplace deaths. What does that mean? Men are working very dangerous jobs most of the time that women aren't doing. It's not to say women can't do them, but a lot of times they're not. Okay. I think where we were created in two completely different ways. Men are completely wired different than women, and women are completely wired different than men. We serve two completely separate roles. We help give life, and they have birth. And I think the lies, we have become so politically correct in today's society that we've got to find a way to make both of those completely against the way we were genetically born. The world's gone stupid, to be completely honest with you. I don't know any other way to put it. It feels like the world has, kind of lost its marbles there for a second. And I believe the more we have two completely polar opposite sides of the spectrum like this, and we don't have more of these conversations and we don't come together, I want to make a little disclaimer. I'm not here to throw off on any of the feminists. Nope, not doing it. I'd like you to come and sit down and talk. I think that's how we solve these things. Now, there's some man on the other side of this. There's somebody listening to it and say, dude, what are you smoking? You know that's never going to happen. You know what? It might not, dude. But those who are crazy enough to believe they can change the world are usually the ones that do. That's what Steve Jobs said. Hey, guys, meet crazy. I believe we can do it. It might not happen right away, but we got to start bringing both sides of the aisle together. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So men and the MGTOW movement do not believe in having love or relationships. Why? Now, when you first hear that, for anybody that's listening to it and not hearing about this for the first time, they're like, oh man, what a pathetic existence. They're not going to get married. They're not going to have relationships. They're not going to have all these different things, this excitement that I've experienced in my life that seems so extreme. But why? Why? For every action, there is a reaction. What is the action that is causing this reaction? For a lot of these men, they get into relationships. They feel, from what I've read, okay, the woman to get everything she wants out of the relationship, and then she'll hop out and she'll go to another one. 55% divorce rate. It definitely reflects something is going on inside of our marriages. Now, if you have a child with that woman, if you have a child, 82.5% of the time, custodial rights is going to go to that mom. You're going to pay child support. You're going to pay alimony. She might get the house. She might get the car. And these guys are starting to wake up and say, you know what? There is a clear bias inside of family court. And the only way to escape it is not to become a part of the statistic in the first place. Who can fault them for that? Like, seriously. I know many people will try, but you make some valid points, fellas. And I hear you. I hear you. And for anybody that says there's not a bias inside of family court, there goes a lot more of that political correct baloney that we see nowadays, and people trying to say, oh, it's 50-50. It happens just as much as this. No, it does not. You need to read up on the Duluth model, the power and control wheel, male privilege. 90% of men are going to be the abusers. This has been taught. You know, when we have studies, when Harvard had the study, they found that 70% of the time that women are initiating domestic violence. And then 50% of the time, it was reciprocal. It was the man and the woman. It was an equal battle. That study got deleted 4 days later. You can still find it, but it just goes to serve and makes you wonder why you never see a man on the billboard. Why are all these cases inside a family court most of the time against this abuse from this man against this woman? Now, it is so easy. You know, that's another claim of the feminists. The abusive male, how abusive men are. I listened to one of the former first ladies of the United States the other day on video in front of a live, really big audience say that she grew up with good men. And it was very rare because most of the time women were going to be abused by the men in the house. I've never experienced it. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. And I know it's a bigger problem than what I've experienced, even though I've never seen it. How hypocritical is that? That is a stereotype against them. That's a stereotype that's going against you when you're making these points, even though they're valid. They have still, society has been programmed that this is who you are. And there's many of these people, they believe that. You know what? Some of them may have. That's not to say that there's not abusive men out there. I know there is. I've seen it. But I've seen it just as much on the other hand. I've seen some of these men get their butts kicked, man, slapped in the face, spit on. And they sit there and they just hold it in. They hold it in. And I don't know how they do it. because things like that, again, every action causes a reaction. We've got to even up this discussion a little bit, but it's so easy. You could have the best case in the world. Maybe she was on drugs. Maybe she was cheating on you. Maybe she was leaving the kids at the house, going to a bar. You go into family court. You think, oh man, I've got a good case. I've got the evidence. I can show this. Well, guess what happens? Here comes the false allegation. Oh, he abused me. That's why I was going off. He abused me. Oh, he was sexually molesting me. That's why I was using those drugs. Or he was touching the kids. Now, that statement don't have to be true. They just got to make people think that it's true. And for you, the one over there that has that stereotype against them, you're an abuser. You're a male chauvinist, misogynistic pig, okay, that does all these things against women. When I make that accusation, when I take that silver bullet and I pop it, it's so easy for them to believe. And ladies, we need you to understand that. I think there is real victims out there that their cases are being downplayed because of the ones out there making these false accusations, getting caught. Look at Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. I know I've brought it up just about every episode, but he had all the evidence. It was the other way around, and he still lost in court. And we're talking about equality. When you guys start standing up and speaking up for equality in cases like that, where they even had the evidence and still came up short, when you start speaking cases like that, then we'll listen to you about equality, because there is anything but equality when it comes inside a family court. And anybody that tells you opposite can kiss my tan rear end. Okay? It's not so tan. We're getting into the winter months. I haven't got any sun. Anyway, but the part that does bother me about that, guys, is not experiencing love. Not all women are like that. I know not all women are like that. I'm not going to sit here and say, because I got it, you can get it too. No. But I've seen it. I had a great mother, and I've got a great wife. I know many other people as well. I know some of them that had some of the probably worst husbands that you could ever ask for, and they stuck in there and they fought, even though they had every reason to leave. They're out there. It's just becoming a very rare breed. It's not as around as it used to be. I think one of the big cases. Oh yeah, let's dip into this because I don't want to tear this apart. So when I was looking into feminism, I was looking into MGTOW, I was looking into feminism, and I was getting the pillars of what makes these two movements, right? I basically got MGTOW within the first 2-3 minutes. Things I already knew about anyway. I go into feminism, and man, there's all these terms. It went on and on and on and on and on and on and on. There's so many different things, guys, that you do that is just considered grossly. One of the most interesting to me was this one. I got a picture of it. It's called manspreading. Do you know what manspreading is? Have you manspreaded today? How dare you manspread in the workplace? How dare you manspread in the house? How dare you do that and take away my equality? Manspreading. When you spread your legs. Dude, stop the spread, please. It's a space issue. How dare you spread your legs? How dare you do that? You know what? Sometimes boys get hot down there. We need a little bit of air, right? Same for women. It's a sweaty area. Why can't we can't spread our legs? Well, I'm trying to find out how that's hurting somebody. Seriously, unless they farted or something and something stinking. How is them spreading their legs? How is that affecting anybody? But it's issue. That's the kind of issues that we're fighting for. Seriously, there was another one that I saw. Man-terrupting. You man-terrupt me. Every time I try to talk, you talk over me. And I cannot speak. I was just watching an episode last night. It was on The Doctors with a doctor called Paul Saladino. Paul went on there. He was talking about this diet that I'm on. Very effective diet. Kind of controversial. Carnivore diet. And every time he would go to speak, he'd get like 2 or 3 words at him. There was this panel of ladies over there. They would just start speaking over, what's your qualifications? What's your college degree that you can say stuff like this? Well, I'm actually a doctor and I'm this, but you're a psychiatrist. You're this. Well, ma'am, I practice medicine. Every time he would go to talk, they would just start screaming over him. It's like, we're not going to allow you to talk. And it was sickening. It was very, very sickening. All right. I watched the early episodes of Oprah where Dr. Warren Farrell was on there when he was explaining these things about, paying for supper and everything. And every time he would go to speak, they would just start speaking over him. He wouldn't even get a chance. If there's such a thing as man interrupting, there's definitely a thing as woman interrupting. But let's just call it interrupting. That's where we start making these more stereotypes. They don't serve anybody. And when you're speaking about equality, yet you're making these gender biased names and throwing that crap out there. Don't talk to me about equality. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? Another one that really grinds my gears, as Peter Griffith would say, objectification of women. The feminist movement believes that men are objectifying women. Sometimes that could be true. Men are wired to be attracted to women. They're attracted to see many things. But one of the first things that got mentioned to me when I started this podcast, and it gets mentioned a lot more, and I've tried to stay away from it. I know it might be a good way to promote and raise funds and all that, and I've made a few videos, but something just doesn't strike me right. TikTok. Does anybody get TikTok? So I got on TikTok not long ago and made some short videos, put them on there about our issues. And I figured I'm just going to take a look and see what this is about. And I've done it a few times now. I started scrolling through there. 1 out of every 3 video, 1 out of every 3 is going to be a girl on that camera listening to some song, shaking her butt in that camera, half naked or in that spandex or anything. Now, if a man looks at that, let me ask you a question. Is he objectifying her, or did she objectify herself because she knew he was going to look? Now, if I go into a store, if I go to the mall, or if I go anywhere, okay, and you see that girl with pants on that are so tight that if she fart, it would blow her shoes off, right? Sorry, never mind the pun, but I'm being serious. We are attracted to the rear end. We're attracted to breast. I mean, that is a natural thing inside of a man to see it. Many men go for it. If he looks at that, is he objectifying her? Or did she ask for it? I'm kind of caught in between that. I'm not saying that's a one-way street every single time, but we see a lot of that. And to just say that men objectify women when there's so many out there making themselves the object of their eye, it's very unfair. Very unfair. Anyway, I was watching a show the other night on Netflix. You guys can go check it out. I back up everything I say. It's called Blown Away. I like, they make shows about anything nowadays, and this one in particular was about blowing glass and glass sculptures. And there's something neat to me about seeing somebody blow that glass and turn it into a sculpture and what they can do with it. Well, in this competition, there was a feminist. She made it known from the very beginning, and she talked about it every competition. I'm a feminist. I'm a feminist. I'm marginalized. Well, when the last female besides her got booted off the show, she was talking about how she was marginalized and how they was against her in this competition, how in this arena, this career that she had, if you will, how she was just completely overlooked because she was female. Well, there was this one guy. He was consistent the whole way through. He made some of the coolest glass sculptures I ever seen. And they commented the whole time. It's like, he's light years ahead of everybody else. And even at the end, they made their final sculpture. They said, he is a better glass blower than anybody we've seen today. Her final sculpture was this iron skillet with a hole in the middle, I guess to represent a vagina. And then she made glass sausage links coming out of it with an egg on the table to represent women and feminism. She talked about the marginalization of women and how that represented what all she was about inside this arena. This guy goes and makes this whole big sculpture, right? Got an earth and raindrops and all this coming down, and he was consistent the whole way through. And they even say right before they judge it, he was the best one here. She won. And there was an agenda to push. There was definitely an agenda to push. And if you go to their Facebook, go just read under their videos and any of their posts, you'll see it. It was obvious. It was obvious to everybody. That is another thing I think MGTOW brings up as well, is the feminization of men. There is an agenda being pushed. I posted an article not long ago from a certain media site that said women are more attracted to men that wear dresses. That wasn't me that said that. You can go read that. And that's in a media site. I'm going to tell you, most of the women that showed up here, they didn't agree with that. There was a few that was like, I like a man in a kilt. I don't care if he wears dresses. I get it. That's not putting down your gay friends. That's not doing any of that. And that's not what we're doing here. But just to make a blank statement that women like a man in a dress more than they do in regular clothes, or it's attacking masculinity every time you turn around. Now, you take a boy that's growing up right now and he starts watching TV. He sees this dunderhead dad on TV, this dad that doesn't know how to take care of his kids, this dad that has to ask the wife everything, this dad that is just basically a bumbling idiot, okay? Now, on the other side, mom's taking care of everything. She's always solving dad's problems. She's always got the answers. Now, little Timmy is growing up. He's watching all his programming, and that's all he's seeing is this idiot of a man and the strength of this woman on TV. Who's he going to want to be growing up? Huh? He doesn't have a strong male in his life. Maybe because of family court. Dad wasn't in the home. He didn't get to spend time. He didn't get to go hunting. He didn't get to go fishing. He didn't get to work on cars. He didn't get to do all these things. He was taught, that's toxic. Why would he want to be masculine? Of course they're feminists. Of course they're getting feminized. And it's because of what we are allowing in society. Even now, this is a very impolitically correct conversation. Probably not going to be popular. I don't care about being popular. It's got to be said. And the media needs to stand up and do something about it. They don't care. As long as they get the ratings and whatever agenda they want out there, they do not care. We need to make sure we are not teaching this to the next generation. I don't want to hate on anybody for who they are, but at least give them the accurate portrayal. I had a strong father. I had a father that he was rough on me. And you know what? Looking back, since he's died, I take every one of those lessons that he gave me, no matter how rough they were, and I appreciated them. They molded me into who I am today. And we need more men in their children's lives. It's just as critical for a girl. Fathers, men are just as critical. And we're telling them that they're not. I mean, seeing that statement by the former First Lady, saying that, men, you need to be better. You need to be better fathers. You need to be better husbands. You need to stop beating your wives. That's what they think about us. Why are men going their own way? Because you've made them. You've made them. And when you sit back and you don't like the results that you see, ask yourself, who's responsible? Who is responsible? There's so many more topics that we could go over, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I am the most qualified to talk about this. I've had the opportunity to learn from some of the greats that have been talking about this for a long time. I'd like to have another conversation where we get some of them on and maybe get one of the feminists on and say, let's have a discussion. There ain't going to be no man-interrupting or woman-interrupting going on. But, dude, I dare you to say something to me about my man spread. I got to have space in between my legs. And if that offends you, Jesus, man, seriously, the things that we are fussing over. You know, man, it takes a man and a woman to create a life. Like, thank you, genius. I took sex ed in school, but it does. It takes a man and a woman to create life. And I believe we can get along, and I believe we can have love and family, just like we always have. What has disturbed that? I'd say the system that gives incentives for the profit off of the broken families and the destruction. The system's to blame. These stereotypes, these agendas that are being pushed. They don't push traditional marriage. They don't push healthy masculinity. They don't push healthy feminism. It's always something that puts us at odds. And social media hasn't made this any better. If you don't feel the same way as somebody else, I mean, you can go and express your opinion. And, dude, I see people that are ready to fight each other and talking about meeting each other. Where you live, I'm going to come down to your house. Probably somebody on the other side of the country because they had a difference in political belief, or they get in these little gender topics right here. And that is the climate that we live in. And that is also the climate that your children live in and that they're being brought up in. At least we have an ability to somewhat look outside of the glass, because that facade and the social media, the big media, and all the biased media, the political media that we've got now, we didn't have that growing up. So we can kind of look outside of the glass and be like, something's going on here. But for our kids, that's all they've ever knew. And these agendas keep getting pushed. Hell yeah, people are going to start going their own way because they're not going to put up with this. And I don't blame them. I'm gonna cut it there because I could go on a lot more about this. Yeah, and another thing, yeah. Men don't show their feelings, right? You know, men are 5 to 7 times more likely to commit suicide. Another interesting tidbit I found, I just looked down and it reminded me of it. So I do want to get this out there before we leave. Women are 100% more likely to go get an annual doctor exam. Men aren't. Why? Because it puts a little chink in their armor. They've been told you got to go to war. You've got to be the one that's got to go protect. You're the one that's got to go provide. Now, if you go there, it feels like a weakness. You know, that's the thing. We got to feel strong. And it's not just ourselves that's telling us that. Society has told us that. We've also been told we're expendable. So if we're not strong, if we do go to war, if we go to these places, we're going to get killed. 93% of us are getting killed in the workplace. So it's a weakness. It's a weakness if we go there and we get told you got to take this pill, or, yeah, man, I tell you, I'm no different. I went a few years ago and I had to get my prostate checked. And I didn't want to. I didn't know until I got there. That's what the guy planned on doing. And I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way this is going to end well. And after that, he was like, look, man, you got some problems with your prostate. You need to come back here in the next few months. Well, it's been quite a few years since that last one. Cause I was like, after that happened, you ain't doing that again. No, sir. Do you know what? No. And it's just this weird feeling. Now, in all reality, I probably need to go get it done. Yeah, but I'm not planning on it. I'm sure it feels the same for you ladies when you're getting your checks and stuff like that. But no. We're told to suck it up. We're told to be men. You can't let that happen. And these statistics are just going to keep getting worse and worse. Worse and worse. Don't talk to me about equality when you hear stuff like that. If there's legitimate arguments, I'd like to hear them. Let's come together. I love ladies. I think, for the record, I have 4 daughters. So I want to make sure that they have the best world that they can grow up in. They're the inspiration behind this. I love them. I love them so much. But I want to teach them the right way as well. I don't want them to feel entitled. I don't want them to feel just like, because they're ladies, that they're owed attention, that they're owed gifts. They're owed happiness. It is a man's job to pursue them and only them. No, I'm not going to teach them that. We've got that stigma against males. We've got that stigma against fathers. And to say that it's not there, you must be blind. Like I said, the feminists, when they come to this page, man, they hate us. They don't even like us talking. Is there anything that I'm bringing up that's not a valid argument? I'm asking you. You might not like what I'm bringing up, but is anything that is being said not valid? And if you don't think so, let's hear it down below. There was a whole movement of people to take dad out of the name. You can't be dad. The hell I can't. You need to get it on somewhere, man. That's the whole reason for doing this. I'm proud to be dad. I'm proud to be a man. I'm proud to speak on these issues. I'm proud of who I am. I've never been an abuser. I've never been any of these things that I see on these lists. Besides proud man spreader. I like spreading my legs. But seriously, I've never been any of those things. And I know many of the other guys, they haven't either. It's been completely the other way around. And when you've got the politicians and the media and everybody pushing this one-sided argument, yes, men are going to go their own way. And fellas, I hear you. I hear you. Guys, that's it for today. If you'd like to see more programming, we'll probably have some coming out every day this week. I'm planning on getting more and more programming coming out. I'm enjoying the new studio. Thank you for everybody that has helped make this. But guys, again, heading into the holidays, we need support. So if you can give us any support, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, where you can become a member of this podcast and make sure that this programming stays on here for people that need it. And conversations like you just heard, I believe, need a lot of nurturing. We need to put some Miracle Grow on it. We need them more and more and more, because that agenda is going to get pushed more and more and more. The agenda we just discussed. It's going to keep getting more hardcore. It's going to be pushed down your children's throat. It's going to be pushed down everybody's throat. I don't plan on being that bumbling idiot. No, I don't plan on people looking at me as that guy. Okay. I don't plan on people looking at me as that abuser, which, you know what? I could see the false allegations coming now because they want this guy to shut up. He's fighting back against the system that we like. You damn right I am. And I'm ready for it. Bring it. See you next time. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are fighting for the rights of parents worldwide. If you want to help support our podcast and for us to continue this mission, please join us at patreon.com/dadtalktoday. You will find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, CloutHub, Parler, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, the podcast app, Google, Apple Podcasts. We're a little bit of everywhere. And guys, every time you like and subscribe, you help us continue this mission. Thank you, and we will see you next time.